Why'd it stop? Hello, everybody. How are you all doing? I hope everyone's doing well. How are you doing, Gorilla?
I'm doing all right.
Doing okay there? Are you getting closer and getting ready for Christmas?
Yeah, I'm all ready.
All set to go, huh?
Yep, everything. Of course, I don't think Santa's gonna bring me a snowblower.
Well, you'd have to have a pretty rich Santa Claus for that. And this year, considering the cost of living and where everything is going, maybe not, huh?
Eh. No, they're really not that badly priced. I mean, about $300 for one.
What are you doing right now? Having to shovel everything?
Yeah.
Oh well, at least you got your son to help you sometimes, right?
Oh, he'll be helping me this weekend. I guarantee you that.
Oops, hold on. I think we have a visitor. Let me open it up.
I got it.
Yes, we do. Oops, sorry.
Hey guys.
Hey, they call me nobody.
We're going to be doing some Gilligan's Island. I'm in, and
welcome.
What really
How are you doing there, sir?
Was the snowblower comment. I have a great big Honda that has tracks like a tank, and I can blow a lot of snow with that baby.
Nice.
One of these days, when I decide to retire, I'm going to put it in the back of my truck, and I'm going to drive south until someone goes, "What the hell is that thing?" And then I'm home.
That's the way to do it, right?
You must be either Canadian or Northeast.
No, I live in northwestern Canada. I live seriously. I'm so close to the Yukon from BC that if I walked out and fired a 22, it's going to hit something in the Yukon.
Yeah, so Canadian. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. What about my background? Get my background going again.
I'm only a few hours
driving. Island background on there
too. A lot of you people don't realize that you got a big chunk of our province that is the southwest end of Alaska.
So how far do you guys figure you are away from each other? Because like Gorilla's in Minnesota.
Well, the other side of the nation is 3,000 plus miles, is it not?
Oh, okay. I guess that was a dumb question.
Yeah, and I'm about 300 or 400 miles from the very center of North America. Not the United States, North America.
Now, see, I've ridden Harley down through there in one occasion to go to Sturgis because I always wanted to go.
Oh, okay. I'm 8 hours from Sturgis.
And I did the Easy Rider thing. I went to Mardi Gras in 96, 97. I don't remember. I really don't remember. To be honest with you, that whole week at Mardi Gras is a blur.
Well, sometimes that'll happen. That's totally understandable. I've always wanted to visit Mardi Gras. Is it still as good as it used to be? You know, since they've had all the flooding and the.
It was still wicked in the 90s. Holy shit!
Well, yeah, the 90s.
I can tell you now.
Right? Yeah, I can remember that big hurricane that wiped it out. I think it was like 2015 or so, 2010.
2005 Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans.
That's the one. Yeah, I don't know if it's the same after that.
Yeah, half the population.
In fact, a lot of people up and moved to Texas. Yeah, a lot of people up and moved to Texas and the other surrounding states.
Well, that's because when their emergency shelter collapsed, they moved them all to Houston to the Astrodome.
Yes. Well, not only that though, but a lot of them got instant public assistance when they moved to the other states. And by the way, I know people in the other states when that happened, when they all flooded over there, the crime skyrocketed. So I guess that's what happened. Maybe it purged a lot of the bad guys from the New Orleans area or Louisiana, maybe in general. Okay, so today, yes, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No worries.
Oh no,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. They call me nobody. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, when I was at Mardi Gras, one of the things I learned very quickly is don't carry a wallet and carry your cash somewhere where you're going to have to fucking really reach for it.
Well, I guess if you're going to get mugged, they know everywhere to search, right?
It's not just mugged. They'll just pick your pocket. Like, so seriously. And so quick you won't even know or who did it.
Wow. Yeah, I'd wear
That's
some
why I
very
always
tight
carry
pants
it in
or
the
something.
front
I don't
pocket.
know.
That's why I always wear it in my front pocket. I wear a pair of jeans that are a little bit smaller. So you always can feel it.
There you go.
The other thing I learned about the southern states, I used to run super modified stock. Well, they're not really stock cars. Super modifieds are basically a big fucking wing and an engine. And
Nice.
I went down to Phoenix a couple times to an invitational down there called the Phoenix Firebird 500. Excuse me. I'm smoking a little weed. It is what it is. What they never taught me as a Canadian was when I went down there, I'm wearing shorts. You know, I got sunblocker on. I'm Mr. Smart Guy. No one told me that the reflection off the sand would burn your nuts to a crisp.
Ooh,
And that's
that does not
exactly
sound good.
what happened.
Wow. Yeah, that does not sound like fun.
It was a very uncomfortable day in my harness in the car because there's a strap that runs right up between your legs.
Yeah.
Wow.
So already,
I guess you wouldn't know to put sunblocker on your nuts, huh?
Well, where I come
Is that
from,
good?
the only sun comes from above. It doesn't reflect.
Yeah,
off
yeah,
of
you're
the
right.
bloody sand and burn you to
That's
a crisp.
hey, the snow will.
That's what I'm saying. You're not expecting that.
The snow will burn you just as well as the sun.
Oh yeah,
That's true,
yeah.
too.
No, I've come in from snowmobiling on a sunny day, and my face is just red as a lobster.
Huh.
You're quite right there.
All right, Pops.
Okay.
What's our first episode tonight?
My audio is cutting out. Well, hold on. My audio is cutting out when they call me nobody. It's cutting off and on. Is that just me, or is he cutting out for you too, Gorilla?
I'm not sure.
I can hear you guys just
Hello?
fine.
No, I know, but I want to make sure. I'm trying to figure out what my audio problems are, and my audio is cutting in and out. Like when you were talking, they called me nobody. It was cutting in and out, and I only heard parts of it. Gorilla, you didn't notice if it was cutting out or not?
No.
So then it wasn't for you.
No.
I got to figure out what is going on with my computer. Something is interfering with it. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, aside from that, I'm going to try to continue. Please, gentlemen, please, guys, let me know if my audio is cutting out, okay? I can usually tell because at the same time my mic cuts out, so does my headphone. And I can tell because I can't hear you guys for a few seconds. And I'm trying to figure out what the issue is without having to go buy a whole new computer.
No, you're coming through fine. Before I bought a computer, I'd look at maybe trying a different headset, if that's the issue.
Oh, it's all brand new. I got a brand new headset, new mic, everything. I've been buying everything.
That
trying to
doesn't
eliminate
mean
the
anything.
problem.
I bought lots of
Second
defective
headset.
stuff.
No,
Maybe-
second headset. And even when I unplug it, the audio on the computer still cuts out.
Yeah. Maybe ask take it to Geek Squad.
Oh, right. They'll sell me everything I don't need. I know more than they do.
Okay.
In fact, I applied for a job there. I remember as a part-time job when I was working for the schools. I was a computer tech. I was a teacher and computer tech. Anyway, I applied for a job during Christmas time at Best Buy Geek Squad, and I had they give you a questionnaire to answer questions. And basically, I was honest. I told them that look, when somebody gives me something, a computer, and they bring it, and let's say it's a loose wire, I will just fix the wire and tell them, here you go, no charge. I fixed it in just under a minute. Best Buy didn't like that. They want you to find something wrong with everything, and they want you to upsell, sell, even if people don't need it, sell it anyway. And with all that, when I told them, well, I'm not going to do that, well, they wouldn't hire me. So I'm telling everybody, do not trust Geek Squad. Do not trust them.
No, I agree. I take care of my own computers. Again, I'm not trying to brag, but as a kid, I got my first computer in 1977, the year Star Wars came out. My parents gave me a Timex / Texas Instruments T1000. And within a couple of years, I got a Commodore 64, and we just kept going from there. I've always had a computer. I know all the old Apple Basic. I know all of the old C+ and C++.
Yep.
I know all of it.
My first hands-on was a Trash 80. I'm sure you know what that is. And then it was a Commodore 64. A Trash 80 I had at school.
Yeah.
And
my 1000 was basically the same piece of crap.
For home.
It just,
yes.
I think they just threw a different number on it. It was still an 8-bit chip and junk.
It was. And back then we decided just to do
Do you remember though, dude? Carefully programming in, typing in all of the crap from a magazine to play some
magazine, exactly, yes. A friend of mine had a Valley F arcade, and we used to program a whole bunch of games into that thing. And I would buy those magazines, and there'd be like 3 or 4 pages of a program for something really simple, like Lunar Launcher or something like that.
Yeah. I remember Lunar. That was a good one. I loved Lunar.
I loved it. Yep. And once you learn how to program, you can go in and you learn how to change the variables so you can make it easier or quicker or add mountains, take away mountains.
Yeah.
What I did, though, is once I got into the Apple stuff, and by the way, I still own my 1983 Apple IIe, and it functions. It still works. I can run it, with the old green screen, and I can still run it. I run it through a Raspberry Pi, and I can put the stupid thing online. You should see what Facebook and Twitter look like in 16-bit.
Wow, I'm
it's
surprised they can
really
run it all.
Cool.
How slow is it?
It's pretty slow, bro. Not gonna lie.
Now you cannot see any of the graphic images, right?
No graphic images, but you get all the text and whatnot, which is kind of cool. And
it is cool.
Oddly enough, it's another one of those setups that if you do want to do something nefarious, they can't trace you because they have no idea what just came in and hit them.
Yeah, they weren't planning on that back then, were they? Resolute Germ, welcome. So good to see you, Resolute Germ. He says a monkey knows more than Geek Squad. Exactly. Hail, Captain Finity. I'm so sorry, Captain Finity. I was on your channel earlier, but I think the audio, I don't know. The thing is that I don't know if it's me having audio issues or you, Captain. I've been trying to correct the issues on my end because sometimes it dips out. But I apologize that I wasn't able to stay there very long. I had to get prepared for this stream. But thank you for being here, Captain. Oh, and Captain, I reached 100 subs.
Yeah. So we're getting watermelon popcorn?
Okay. So, yeah, welcome, guys. Watermelon pop, I guess so. Or popcorn, watermelon and popcorn. Is that popcorn? Yeah, it is. Okay, so what is it? Okay, we are, bear with me, guys, here. We are covering Gilligan's Island tonight, obviously. We're going to do 2 episodes. episode. The first one we're going to do is season 1, episode 17, Little Island Big Gun. And it originally premiered January 23rd, 1965. And this is one of my absolute favorites because we have the great Larry Storch in it playing a bank robber. And Larry Storch was an excellent, excellent actor and comedian. He was very funny. A lot of people may know him from a lot of things, but he starred in the series F Troop, among many other things, which I think was another Sherwood Schwartz production. But here he's going to play a bank robber that lands on the island, and he takes the their castaways hostage. And what I want to point out about tonight's two episodes. The first one, like I said, is Little Island Big Gun, episode 17, and the second one is going to be X Marks the Spot, episode 18. And what I found interesting upon rewatching these two episodes, in both of them, especially the second one, the castaways are actually in a very dire situation. It's both episodes, I would say, even though we know this is a comedy series, it's a sitcom pretty much. Both episodes, in my opinion, are very dark. And the first one is even literally shot mostly at nighttime. But they're very somber because basically in both episodes, the castaways' lives are at risk and they know it.
I think I walked the wrong episode there then.
Little Island Big Gun was about the bank robber. Did you see that?
No, I've seen a missile one.
That's the second episode tonight.
Listen, yes. I got to bow out. My generator's making some really weird sounds. And it's like minus 40 now. So I got to go check
We'll get that taken care of. I appreciate you stopping by.
See, I watched the one where they found the Jungle Boy.
Good luck. Thank you.
The one I watched was the Jungle Boy.
No.
One.
That's next week's.
That's
next week's. You're one ahead. Ola Greg, welcome. Here, let me show this. Ola Greg, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. So good to see you, Ola Greg. And Ola Greg says, hello, everyone. 100. Cheers. Thank you, Ola Greg.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess for tonight episode, I'll be doing most of the talking because you didn't. That's sad you didn't watch it. Okay.
Hey, well, I can fix that real quick.
Well, no, then you'll miss this show if you watch it. So might as well, at least I'd rather have you here. It won't do any good for you to watch it, and then by the time you're done watching it, we're on the second episode.
So wait, it's the first one we're reviewing, isn't it?
Right, and you didn't see the first one, right?
Okay, I'll have to go for memory.
Okay, that's fine. Well, right, either way, I know we need to cover it, but okay. What I'm going to start doing, Gorilla, is I'll start reminding you ahead of time. I'll send you a tweet, like on Tuesdays or whatever,
I
just saying, okay.
I think my thing had it backwards from the thing. They had it marked wrong.
Oh, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear you. It was cutting out.
I said the thing I used, I think they had it marked wrong.
Good idea is go to the Internet Movie Database. At least that way you know it's going to be in order. Okay, so tonight we're going to cover first, like I said, what was I saying? Oh, I was talking about how the episodes were dark and dire, even though they are comedy. And I will point some of those examples out, but I'm sure you guys will notice as well. And tonight we're going to start the first episode here. Let me get that queued up for us. And let me share my screen, of course, and hopefully no audio, nothing that's going to get us triggered or warned or whatever they call it.
Yeah. Hey, for you guys in the chat, is it cutting out for you or is it just on my side?
Well, that right there, when you said it cut out. Okay, so here we are with our opening. And the name of our
I did not catch a word of that.
So I don't know if the issue with the sound is on my end or your end. Then we're back to this again, and I was hoping to get these problems solved before the stream started.
Yeah.
No, I was saying that I forgot to read from the book again, like last week, because I'm always in such a hurry to get
Oh,
started because I know it's late there for you. I'm always in a rush. That's
yeah.
why I've got to move the
Don't
stream
worry.
to another time.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
don't
I've got
worry
to
about
move.
the lateness here on my end.
Well, yeah, but even last week we were losing everybody because it was so late. That's why I've got to move this to a different day at a different time. So we'll have our opening here. There's our castaways on the way to the island. First, and we're on
Yeah.
Gilligan's
Are
Island,
you
which
gonna
we
read
all
from the
know.
book?
Well, I was going to, and then I forgot because I was in a hurry. I guess I could hold on just a moment.
Yeah, you don't need to
I'd
put
like to.
Sherwood shorts up for that.
With this, the part I wanted to read about was the hiring of the main cast members. Sherwood Schwartz, from his book Inside Gilligan's Island, says I had never met Bob Denver. I knew Bob only from his role as Maynard G. Krebs on Dobie Gillis. It never occurred to me to connect the bearded beatnik and the hip talk with my image of Gilligan. Like many producers, casting directors, and executives, I fell temporary victim to the evils of typecasting. Bob Denver was not my first choice for Gilligan. However, there was another young comedy actor whom I knew quite well, Jerry Van Dyke. Jerry had arrived in Hollywood with high hopes and low finances. More than anything, he didn't want to be Jerry Van Dyke. He wanted to be Jerry Van Dyke rather than Dick Van Dyke's brother. For those of you out there, Dick Van Dyke is a famous comedian and actor who was in the Dick Van Dyke Show and Mary Poppins, among many other things. Actually, Dick and Jerry are quite different. Dick has an urbane, sophisticated look and manner. You somehow don't expect to see him in a sweatshirt. You not only expect to see Jerry Van Dyke in a sweatshirt, you expect to see a hole in it. Jerry seemed just right as Gilligan. I phoned him, and Jerry and I had lunch together. I described the project and the character and gave him the script to read. Jerry told me he would think it over and discuss it with his agent. What I'm going to read here, I'm going to basically surmise this to say is that he showed it to his agent. His agent told him not to do Gilligan's Island. His agent basically told him to do another pilot instead called My Mother the Car, which is infamous as being one of the worst shows ever produced for TV. It was picked up, but only lasted one season. And Jerry Van Dyke always regretted after that not taking the role of Gilligan. Years later, what he didn't know is he finally did find fame in the TV series Coach. So good for him. He eventually found fame, but that wasn't until the 90s, I believe, is when Coach was big. Okay, back to the book. From time to time, a co star, a second banana, actually becomes more important on a series than the actual star of the show. This happened with the Fonz on Happy Days, with Mr. Spock on Star Trek, and with Bob Denver on Dobie Gillis. Audience research and fan mail clearly indicated there were thousands of Bob Denver fans. It only took one meeting with Bob Denver to convince me he was indeed the Gilligan that was in the script and in my mind. Rod Amato reinforced my own conviction that Bob Denver was a perfect for the part. By the way, when I mention other names like Rod Amato, these are other producers for the show. Bob himself is very quiet by nature, extremely bright and very well read. In fact, he had been a teacher before becoming an actor. But it's amazing how truly gifted performers can give a flawless characterization in a role that's so counter to their own personality. So remember, Bob Denver Gilligan was a teacher before he was Gilligan. Bob saw the potential in Gilligan's Island, loved Gilligan's relationship with the skipper, and was fascinated by the concept involving the inner relationship of this odd assortment of characters. United Artists and CBS quickly approved the selection of Bob Denver as Gilligan, and I went on to the next cast, casting element, the skipper. Instinctively, I knew the skipper would be the hardest character to cast. Very often, when you believe something is going to be the most difficult, it seems out to be the easiest. Not in this case. The skipper was without a doubt the toughest casting job in Gilligan's Island. The skipper had to combine the gruff, forceful strength of a lion with the gentleness and warmth of a pussycat. You had to love the skipper even while he was bawling out the sympathetic, well meaning Gilligan for some blunder. No matter how stupid the mistake, and no matter how vicious the scolding, it was imperative that the audience still love the skipper. On Gilligan's Island, there will be no villains among the 7 castaways. The villainy came from the forces of nature: storms, lightning, quicksand, tidal waves, volcanoes, or from wild animals, poisonous shrubs, savages from other islands. The castaways themselves were all designed to be likable characters, though with very different sets of natures. The skipper, being the ultimate authority figure on the island as he was on the boat, was the most difficult to make lovable, particularly in his relationship with Gilligan. It required an actor who brought to the role so much innate warmth and humanity that you would love him no matter what. The actor who played the role would have to combine the worst features of Attila the Hun with the benevolence of Edmund Gwynn in Miracle on 34th Street. I wrote a special test scene between the skipper and Gilligan. It wasn't in the script. It was a scene that made the skipper as angry, unforgiving, and unsympathetic as possible. This uncompromisingly merciless scene was designed to make you hate the skipper, no matter which actor played the part. Maybe it was unfair to me to make the test so severe, but I felt the skipper's and Gilligan's relationship rested on the ability of the actor to make you like the skipper in spite of everything he said or did. And the whole show, in a large sense, rested on the skipper Gilligan relationship. Bob Denver was very generous with his time and talent in playing this test scene against dozens of prospective skippers. Rod Amato was equally generous, devoting many hours, days, and weeks directing those videotapes. They both realized the importance of chemistry between the skipper and Gilligan. Time after time, we videotaped that scene with one character actor after another. Many of them were well known names who went on to become stars of other TV shows, like Carol O'Connor, for example, who I'm sure is delighted that the role of the skipper escaped him. Obviously, he says that because Carol O'Connor went on to do All in the Family and became very rich and famous from it. We tried all the recommendations from the casting departments, from CBS executives, United Artists, plus my own ideas. Bob himself made several suggestions. Nothing worked. Just a moment, I got a cough. I get dry throat reading all this. Nothing worked. Every skipper flunked the sympathy test. As they chewed out Gilligan for his inept behavior, you hated their guts. There seemed to be no laurel for our Hardy. The pilot film was to be shot in November in Hawaii. Weeks were slipping by as we continued to test performers for the skipper role. And I lost my place. I kept reminding we got a skipper whose love for Gilligan would shine clearly through any verbal abuse. We were in difficulties with other casting as well, however. There were the usual difficulties a producer encounters in casting. Some performers were unavailable. Others didn't work out in readings or in tests. In case of the 2 young ladies, Ginger and Marianne, there were matching differences between the 2 women to consider: age, height, hair color, attitude. The parts of Mr. and Mrs. Hall III and the professor presented their own difficulties, but I was convinced we would find the right performers. Not so with the skipper. That role kept gnawing at me, particularly as November approached with hurricane speed. All of us went through our list of candidates again and again and again. We turned the pages of the Academy Players Directory more and more slowly, hoping to find an actor whom we had overlooked. It was very discouraging. Time was running out. It was either settle or pass up the opportunity to do the pilot film that year. And Sherwood Schwartz's wife was named Mildred, so that's why I'm going to bring up the name. He said, I don't know what to do. Have another drink, suggested Mildred cheerfully. I didn't even smile. Mildred knew the situation was dangerous. We were having dinner at a restaurant on Santa Monica Boulevard near Westwood in LA. We had never dined there before, but some of Mildred's friends had recommended it. I was sipping a vodka martini on the rocks, and Mildred was sipping her vodka also on the rocks as we contemplated my Gilligan's Island project, which at that moment also seemed to be on the rocks. Very often, Mildred had come up with good ideas for casting, but this time she was stumped as we all were. Any point in going through the casting book again? We've been through it a dozen times. Well, nobody's even close. Clothes isn't good enough. The Skipper Gilligan relationship is the most important one on the show. If that's not perfect, there must be someone. I gave her a look. We had all been saying that to each other for a month now. Maybe you should wait for next season, said Mildred. That'll give you another year to find the skipper. And it's sure if I don't get hit by lightning. I looked around for the waiter, sun my eye across the restaurant. There was a table of 4 men dressed in Civil War cavalry uniforms. In Hollywood near the studios, you sometimes see unusual sights like that. This restaurant was located just behind what used to be the back lot of 20th Century Fox Studios. Setting my eyes riveted on one of those 4 men, it was Alan Hale. That's the one, I exclaimed to Mildred. That's the one, what? She said. He's sitting right over there. I pointed. It's impolite, but it's effective. That's Alan Hale, isn't it? That's the skipper. He's perfect. For some reason, he's not in the book, and for some reason, nobody's mentioned him. He really looks right, said Mildred, still staring at Hale. I wonder why his name never came up. Any number of reasons. He may not be available because of this movie. He might not want to do a series. He might be in a pilot already, or CBS would never settle. Unfortunately, I didn't know Mr. Hale personally, and I never approached a performer except through an agent. Most producers follow that procedure. It avoids placing you in a business legal relationship with performers and puts that in the hands of agents and business affairs people where it belongs. I just hope he's available 3 weeks from now. I'll call his agent first thing in the morning. All right, I'm going to end that there, and then I'll catch, because the story of the skipper is a little longer than I'd like, and I don't want to skip it or cut through it, so I'm going to go ahead and I've already been gone on long enough, so I'm going to go through with our first episode here. Thank you for listening, everybody, through that much. Okay, so now we have our opening shot, and I wanted to mention that I had mentioned in a previous episode when they shoot day for night, where they turn down the f-stop on the camera and make it look darker, but this scene was actually shot at night. And since the lagoon, it was an exterior location, it was right outside the studio, that means they obviously shot this scene at night. And you can see the spotlight actually shining onto the people in the boat. And here they are, and where we have Sherwood Schwartz, produced by Jack Arnold. And here they are pulling the boat ashore. Ooh, let me get those subtitles on. I thought I had them on. I do. I think they just haven't spoken yet. And that is Larry. Okay. And they are talking. I just wanted to make sure and check my subtitles. Let me get my subtitles going again. I thought I had them going. I guess they stopped for some reason. I apologize for the delay, everybody. There we go. Boy, sure you know how to pick a hideout, boss. So here we are. Larry Storch, the wonderful and hilarious Larry Storch, right, playing the bank robber, and the guy on the left, his henchman. And they arrive at night. Boy, this little island ain't even on the maps. Uncharted, uninhabited. And
You're going off the wrong way
for robbing a bank. So the Coast Guard. Well, what they explain is they're on their way to another country. And what they're doing is there's all the text. But they're on their way to another country. They want to skip America altogether. And he's telling his henchmen there to go back into the shipping lanes as soon as possible so the Coast Guard won't spot him. But if I remember, they're headed to South America. Now I remember, they're headed to South America. Now, once the Sea Spray is the name of their little boat. And he says, now, once the Sea Spray has been boarded and searched, he's basically telling the guy to leave. So the guy leaves. And he leaves the bank robber there. You got everything? I'll see you, boss. So the boss has a bag of money and also some rations, some food and things like that. And he's showing, he's opening up his left hand lapel on his jacket because he also has a gun. And here we are, cut to the next day, and our castaways are heading to the table for breakfast. And the skipper even says, ladies, what's for that? And apparently it's all coconut. Well, never mind, just dig in. Skipper, it's always coconut. Because he asked what it was for breakfast.
Well, they have fish and vegetables and stuff.
They are going to mention that. And what they basically said was all we have is coconut. So there's fried coconut, baked coconut, all these different kinds of coconut, but it's all coconut. And as they're getting ready to eat, Gilligan smells a sniffing, and he notices a smell. And he says, I smell bacon. And of course, Skipper says, yo, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just imagining. And then we find out that the bank robber is not far away cooking bacon. Okay. And then the professor notices too. I thought I smelled bacon too. So now the skipper is starting to wonder. And even the professor says, and unfortunately, it's just a figment of our imagination. And later we have, go ahead.
I was going to say, Nemesis of Eden says, congrats on the 100 subs. I hope you're doing amazing tonight.
Thank you, Nemesis of Eden. I appreciate that. And thank you for coming here. I hope you enjoy it. So Gilligan says, well, I wish I had bacon. I can't show every joke here. But Skipper tells him, well, if you want something other than coconut, why don't you go hunt for some more food? So that's kind of what you were talking about. So he's basically telling Gilligan, if you don't want just coconut, go fishing or go find something else to eat. So Gilligan says, okay, and he leaves, and he has a bow and arrow. And he tells Skipper he's going to look for dates. And Skipper comes along and says, listen, buddy, if we want to eat something besides coconuts, that's what he tells him, you got to find something. And Gilligan explains that he's going to use the bow and arrow to hunt dates. And since we can't climb these trees, so this is where Gilligan's not showing he's actually smart. So the skipper says, how are you going to get dates with a bow and arrow? And Gilligan says, well, since we can't climb these trees, so I figured he's going to shoot the arrow up into the tree to get the dates.
Yeah, what's a date?
A little fruit. Did you ever see Raiders of the Lost Ark?
No.
Okay, it's a fruit, kind of like a fig or a plum. Well, certainly, Gilligan, if you're real careful, says the skipper, then you can shoot the pits out of them at the same time. So Skipper does not believe him. And Gilligan shoots the tree, and a bunch of dates start falling out from the tree. Ow, it worked, Skipper. So they're able to pick up dates. And now Skipper is excited, and Skipper starts to collect them. Skipper says that he's going to collect them and take them back to the camp. And he tells Gilligan to go find some more. Yeah. And as we see that, go ahead.
I was going to say, Nemesis says bad dates.
Bad dates, right. Here we have another Raiders of the Lost fan. And my God, you haven't seen it? Gorilla, you've got to do a watch party with Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Well, we're going to have an Indiana Jones month one of these days.
We'll just stick to the first 3 and then stop after that.
Yeah. And thank you, Nemesis.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Nemesis. And here we have the bank robber counting his cash. And as he's doing that, he hears noise and he hears Gilligan coming. Did somebody just say something? I hope you're doing awesome. What was that?
Oh, he is hoping I was having an amazing night tonight, too. I'm just waiting for the blizzard. I'm hoping this blizzard starts soon so I don't have to go to work tomorrow.
Do me a favor. Can you read his chat? I want to try to read them all.
Okay, so I hope you are also doing awesome tonight.
Very cool.
At me.
Very cool. Thank you, Nemesis. So here we have a bank robber. Here's Gilligan coming. So he hurries up and stashes all the money back in the bag and hangs the bag in a tree. As you can see there, it looks like a pillowcase. Here comes Gilligan coming along, searching for dates. Gilligan shoots the tree right above the bank robber, and the dates start falling. And Gilligan doesn't realize it yet. And he says, look at them all, mister. Look at them all. And then he realizes that there's somebody else there on the island. And there's the bank robber. And what I like about this, like I said, Larry Storch is a comedian, but he's playing a serious role in here, which I like. And even though this is a comedy episode, he's playing a serious role. He's playing it straight. And by the way, he also played the original Ghostbusters. He was in the original Ghostbusters. And he says, amazing, that's just what happened to me. So Gilligan said that we were marooned and our boat crashed. Excuse me. Our boat crashed. And then that's when the guy said, amazing, that's just what happened to me. And Gilligan says, well, why are you drip dry? He says, drip dry, your shoe's true. So Gilligan's noticed that if the guy crash land, why is he drip dry? The guy should have just said that he arrived the night before, but he didn't. And Gilligan's, I don't know about you, but your boat got wrecked. No boats come here, says Gilligan. Here's where he says, I was heading for an island with wild natives. And then he says, I'm a doctor, and I'm there to help the natives, is what he says. And Gilligan says, Dr. Boy, what a break having a doctor here on the island. I agree, they do need a doctor. The professor's smart, but he's not a doctor. That would be one person, if I was ever stranded on an island, I definitely would want a doctor there.
Yeah, so, but sometimes you got to take what you can get.
Got to take what you can get, right? At least you get they're lucky to have the professor. And this is what he introduced himself. He says, my name is Gilligan. And he says, I see you have a bow and arrow. There are no guns on the island. And Gilligan says, yes, we have guns, just no bullets. And he says, I use it to shoot down dates. And unfortunately, Gilligan shoots with the arrow and hits the bag of money, which turns upside down, and all the money spills to the ground. Gilligan gets excited and runs over. He says, how did it get up there? And Gilligan immediately starts grabbing money and poking it with the arrow. Well, this money is part of the endowment. And the guy is trying to stop him. Gilligan thinks that he found the money, but the guy is trying to explain that money is part of an endowment for the natives once he arrives to the other island with natives. And that's where he's saying, boy, I bet you people gave you a lot of money. He said, that's one way to put it. They donated it. So he was joking about the stolen money. Here they are collecting the money. And here we are back to Mr. and Mrs. Howell enjoying the day. And Gilligan arrives with the supposed doctor. And it's Mr. and Mrs. Howell, I'd like you to meet Dr. Farrell. And Mr. Howell immediately says, my finger hurts. And he says, does it hurt still? And he says, well, you've got it again. I definitely recommend, by the way, once again, I recommend you watching this. I cannot cover the jokes. There's too many. And when I tried to do a little more detail, we got stricken. So I have to hop around. I apologize for that. So Mr. Howell, being all courteous, says, sit down, doctor. You can join lovely Mrs. Howell and myself. And, of course, he sits down, and he's lying to them, telling them that he's planning on going to another island and building a hospital, latest technical equipment and lab. Mrs. Howell is very impressed. And the Howells discussed possibly donating to his hospital. Will a few $100,000 be enough? They ask him. And he's extremely surprised, and it's hard for him to even say the words. A few $100,000, he says. Philanthropic work like yours must be encouraged, says Mrs. Howell. Native diseases so often affect the natives, you know. Possibly name a disease after us is what Mr. Howell says. Of course, isn't that how they always do it? They'll donate to hospitals, but they want a wing named after them or a building named after them.
Yeah, it's the same with universities. Like, say some rich person's kids get in trouble, they'll all suddenly donate $250,000, and all of a sudden, like, it'll be called, like, say, Grover Hall or something. So, like,
I know,
donated $250,000.
Right. If I was really being nice and I wanted to donate, I would tell them, don't name it after me. I want to make it anonymous. How's that, huh? That's what I would do. It just shows their vanity. And obviously, I think the only reason why they do it is for tax write-offs, because it's definitely a tax write-off. And that way, all it is just coming out of their taxes. And then, of course, Mrs. Howell says, yes, you could call it Howell. Of course, she wants her name on it as well. Like, it makes a difference. And that way, we'd each get separate billing, says Mrs. Howell. And here we are. Gilligan's introducing him to the girls. And what a lucky break. If any of us get sick, you can give us a shot, they say.
Oh, he'll give him a shot, all right.
I know, right? That's exactly what he says. What do you specialize in, doc? And they asked him. He said, yes, I can give shots. And that's why he puts his hand over the gun. And they're asked, of course, they're being naive. And once again, I want to shout out or mention that Marianne again is wearing nylons for some reason.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't the shot I was talking about, but we'll go with that.
Yeah, that'll work. So they ask him, what do you specialize in, doctor? And he says, surgery, of course. Yes, I devoted most of my life to removing things, he says. And here we are where he meets the professor and the skipper. And of course, they're both delighted as well. And they're being very kind to him. That's him responding. You're all very kind. But I'm sure they tell him that he can stay right there in their hut while he's on the island. And he says he doesn't want to put them out. And skipper says, nonsense. We've got plenty of room. And in fact, we've got so much room he donated Gilligan's cot. Oops. So Gilligan does not look so happy when he finds out that his sleeping arrangements are being done. And even not only do they volunteer Gilligan's bed, but they have Gilligan move the doctor's things in and all his gear. As you can see, Gilligan's not happy here. And I want to point out what's interesting about this episode is this is the first time we've seen Gilligan and Skipper not sleeping in hammocks. They have two cots side by side. There we go. Gilligan's making up the cot. All right. And he turns on the radio to listen to the news, and the announcer on the radio is talking about that very same bank robber who has escaped by sea with over $500,000. And he's taken in a holdup from the Monarch Bank last Thursday, is what Gilligan hears. Yes, Jackson Farrell has done it again. So that's when Gilligan realized that the doctor is actually the bank robber. So Gilligan is worried. Mrs. Farrell and his accomplices are hiding somewhere. Gilligan is now worried, and he has to tell the skipper and professor. So he runs out of the hut. And here we are with them talking.
I'll be right back.
Go for it. Gilligan's trying to get attention here, and he's waving. And the skipper says, is it something you'd like the doctor to look at? What is it, Gilligan? Something wrong with your finger? Is something you'd like the doctor to look at? And of course, Gilligan says, no. And Gilligan is trying to help the doctor and give him advice maybe on how they may find him. And Gilligan is in the background there waving, trying to explain what's going on, trying to get their attention. And the bank robber's still talking to them. And there's Gilligan there. And the bank robber turns around just as Gilligan has his arms straight up in the air. And Gilligan, not knowing what to say, says, I just wanted to say I caught a fish this big. Well, good for you, Gilligan, they say. And then now Skipper asks Gilligan for the radio and says, give me that radio. And Gilligan trying to say, Skipper, it doesn't work. And Skipper says, it worked just a minute ago. You better hope it works, Gilligan. The two start struggling over the radio, and it falls to the ground. And that's why Skipper says it better work. And they turn the radio on, and it's working. And they hear on the radio, before too long, a boat will arrive. No, this is the bank robber talking. I'm sorry. Before too long, a boat will arrive to pick me up, he says. I won't hesitate to. Now they realize, they hear on the radio that the doctor is, in fact, a bank robber. So the jig is up, as they say. And this is where the bank robber threatens them that if any of them do any talking, that he will eliminate them. He's not going to say kill, because this is a comedy. But he says, I won't hesitate to eliminate them if anybody says anything or does anything when the boat comes to pick them up. And now the three of them realize how dire the situation is. And this is what I meant about earlier. It's a dark episode. So what happens is we have the three men here in the hut trying to figure out what to do. We have got to have a plan of action, says the professor. Exactly. He got to doze off some time. So they're hoping that the bank robber is going to go to sleep so they can try to overcome him. But as they're saying that, unfortunately, the bank robber is right outside the window and hears everything. So he comes into the hut, and he tells Gilligan, I want you to tie up both of them. So there happens to be 3 cots in this hut for some reason. So he tells Gilligan to tie the skipper and the professor. And I want you to tie them both up, he says. And here we are. And here is Gilligan tying up the skipper. And Skiller whispers to him, leave it a little loose. And then Gilligan yells, leave it a little what? And then he says, never mind. And Gilligan tightens the rope. And there we are. The professor is already tied down at this point. And the bank robber is tying down Gilligan. And he says, is everything tight? And Gilligan lifts his leg. So he sees that Gilligan is still partially loose because Gilligan doesn't know any better. So he goes over and ties Gilligan down again. Thanks for telling me, Gilligan, he says. And here's where Skipper, after acting like he was asleep for some time, is managing to try to get his cot up. And there we are. The 3 of them get their cots up, but they're still strapped. And Skipper tries to walk out the door and realizes that he can't with that bed blocking it like that and with him tied to it. So he tells Gilligan he better try because he's thinner. So here we are with them crashing into each other as Gilligan's trying to squeeze out the door. And they're pushing him and they're crushing Gilligan against the door. Push, Gilligan, push.
Yeah. You know, with those bamboo pots there, those poles should have broken real easily.
Yep. Say that again. What's that?
Those bamboo poles that they used to build the cots with should have broken right away.
Well, eventually they would, especially when they dry out after a while. So as they're doing this, they see the bank robber approaching. So they hurry up and turn around and go back into the hut and lay down. Copyright claim. And then suddenly act like they're sleeping just as the bank robber approaches. Here's Mr. and Mrs. Howell coming up. Mr. Farrell, they're calling for the bank robber. And of course, what would Mr. and Mrs. Howell do? Offer money. And Mr. Howell talks about maybe they can negotiate. And he's offering him a bribe. And of course, the bank robber says, are you kidding? Mr. Howell gives him a check written on a piece of wood. And the bank robber says, are you kidding? If I try to cash this, they'll be on to me. I'll get caught. And Mr. Howell says, okay, of course, I should have realized it. Sometimes I think a woman's place is in the hut. I know that's kind of a sexist comment these days. But he's basically blaming the situation on Mrs. Howell. And here we are where the bank robber is taking a rest. And Skipper is watching from around the corner. And him and Gilligan have plans. They have a net full of coconuts that Gilligan is going to climb up to the top and hopefully drop the coconuts onto the bank robber. And Gilligan's ready to drop the coconuts. And we cut to the skipper who hears the crash and is excited, walks around the corner. We've got him, exclaims the skipper, all excited. And they realize, no, the bank robber is behind those bushes. It's actually Gilligan under the chair. Gilligan had fell off the roof. So the bank robber escaped the trap. And here's where the professor is explaining to Ginger, they've got to get that gun. The gun is the key to the situation. And of course, Ginger has ideas. She knows exactly what to do. And she said, watch it, he's coming. And she basically gets rid of the professor. And she says, oh, Mr. Farrell. And the professor leaves at that point. And of course, she's trying to be nice and sweet talking. We were getting along so beautiful when we first met. And here she is complimenting him and combing his hair, brushing his hair. And she asks him here that if he goes back to land, will he take her with him? And he actually contemplates this thing. It'd be a wonderful idea. And then they realize the boat is coming. So he says, Gilligan, give me that glass. So he climbs up on the hut so he can get a lookout. Let me go try to show that here if I can. So Gilligan has a spyglass. There it is. So he looks through this and he sees another boat coming. But he says, that isn't the my boys, that's the Indigo mob. Indigo mob, they must have tailed me, he said. So that's apparently somebody who's been hunting him. And they call for Mr. and Mrs. Howell, who come out from the hut. And he tells them, don't do any talking. We explain this. He tells them, when the mob arrives, don't do any talking. Don't say anything. Act like you don't know English. And then he dresses them up as natives. So there we have the professor, Mrs. Howell with that look as usual. I love that. And there's Mr. Howell. And Ginger still looks good dressed like that. And we have the skipper looking ridiculous. And Gilligan. Gilligan's right there. We'll see him again. And Marianne is not dressed up. So what happens is the bank robber tells them, remember, as natives, you speak no English. And then he takes Marianne into the hut to hold her as hostages. And he tells them if any of them blow it, he's going to shoot her. And there's Gilligan again. We'll answer all questions in native gibberish, he says. And Gilligan says, but sir, what if we happen to? And Skipper puts his hand over his mouth and shuts him up. So those two head off into the hut. And as they do, here's the gang, the Indigo mob. They come along and start asking the natives questions. And when they look at the natives, this guy says this outfit can set back civilization 2,000 years. And they realize that the natives, I guess as they're called, do not speak any English. And they're just making mumbo jumbo sounds pretty much. And Lucky looks to me like they don't speak anything. And here we are speaking gibberish. And they're trying to, as you can see, especially with Mr. Howell, they're trying to give hints to what somebody's in the hut behind them. But these guys are not noticing. And in fact, they're insulting the castaways, saying it's hard to believe they are human beings. And he sees Ginger and he says, hello, darling. And they said, you better watch out. She'd slap your face. And she does. And Mr. Howell is saying moolah, moolah, moolah. And then the guy recognized moolah. I could have sworn that's what I heard him say. Even the most native tribes must know about money, he thinks. Indeed. But unfortunately, they leave. They don't realize what's going on. So we immediately cut to the lagoon here, and it looks like the bank robber's buddy arrived again in their boat to pick up the bank robber. So that's what they're doing here, and they're loading the bank robber's supplies into the boat. And the bank robber says, I'd like to thank you all for coming here and seeing me off. Mr. Jackson, they tell him, please notify the authorities about us. And they're laughing, saying, sure, we will, huh, boss? And the bank robber says he there's no intention of seeing the authorities. So there we go. They get back into the boat, and as you can see, they're leaving. And that's when the bank robber realizes the boat anchor is still on land, and he asks Gilligan to bring him the anchor. Gilligan, give us the anchor, he says. And Gilligan grabs the anchor and starts swinging it around as if he's going to throw it. And then when the bank robber sees that, he says, no, don't throw it. Bring it to me. But it's too late. Gilligan tosses the anchor. which flies over to the other side of the boat and into the water. And unfortunately, the bag of money is wrapped around the rope is wrapped around the bag of money, taking the bag of money into the water with it. And as that happens, the propeller is chewing up all the money. So I guess that kind of there goes all that money. They're being destroyed. And the bank robber's panicking, saying, "Stop the motor! Stop the motor!" And he even jumps into the water and starts grabbing the money. But he says it's all chopped up. It's all chopped up. So he's so mad, he gets his gun out and he's getting ready to shoot Gilligan. I'm not kidding. That's what I mean. This is dire. But the good news is it's a squirt gun. Since the gun is wet, all it does is shoot out a stream of water.
Is that how it worked back in the 60s?
No.
Gun?
No, it was a squirt gun painted black.
No, but I thought if the gun got wet like that or submerged, that maybe it wouldn't fire the bullets.
Well, are you a gun owner?
Yeah. But this is 60 years ago, though, that the show was made. That's why
that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Guns haven't changed. Here's what it is. I could be wrong, but I have handled guns, and in fact, I'm a pretty good shot. But I think when it comes to water, they may or may not work. The problem is oil. Guns are based on oil. That's why you have to keep them clean and oiled all the time because all the mechanisms use oil. And I'm thinking that the water might throw that off and make it seize up. So I think it is possible so I don't know if it's a maybe it might not work underwater or after being underwater or if it's a definite no. I don't know if it's a definite yes or not. It just seems I can see how the water would affect it. And here's an excellent part. And this is when the skipper yells, "The gun is full of water. Come on, let's get him." And these three actually do rush out into the water to go after the bank robber and tackle him. And I love this. It just shows they're not cowards. And of course, the henchman says, "Here they come, boss. Let's get out of here." The boss grabs onto the boat, and the boss, the bank robber, says, "With Gilligan on that island, you can't win," he says. And they take off in the boat, and by the time they get there, by the time Skipper and Professor reach the boat, they're out of there. They're gone. And there they go, engine roaring. And Professor even says, "No, you, Skipper, we can't catch him." And Gilligan says, I got it. We'll take it out." And here we are, cut to later. And Gilligan's listening to the radio, and it says the Coast Guard has boarded the Sea Spray and apprehended Jackson Farrell and his gang of bank robbers. And you see Gilligan is doing something here with the money. And the radio announcer continues, the authorities were unable to locate any of the loot. And the skipper comes in and sees the Coast Guard got him, good for them. And the skipper guard's very happy to hear this. And Skipper asked Gilligan, what is he doing? And he said, he's gluing those dollar bills end to end to end. And he says, boy, it's just some big bill that I've never seen so many zeros. And he even tears off some of them and gives them to the skipper. And we come to our closing credits. And that is the first episode. What'd you think, Gorilla?
Oh, no. I vaguely remember it, but it's been so long.
Yeah, I was kind of worried about that. Try to watch it again soon. I think you'll enjoy it. And, you know, as we've said before, it helps if you watch it before we review it. But still, maybe this will make you want to watch it.
Well, that's one of those, I just watched the wrong episode this week.
And it happens. I did the same thing a couple weeks ago, so I totally understand.
Yeah.
What is that? A strange smell. My roommate is smoking something that smells odd. I don't know what it is. Okay, now we're on our second episode, X Marks the Spot. This episode premiered January 30th, 1965. And it's described as the Pentagon is set to launch a new deadly missile that will destroy everything within 100 miles of its path. And the island is ground zero.
Yeah.
All right, let me take it. Do we have any?
Now, here's the question, though. I thought it's been established that there was island natives nearby.
Well, right. There are other islands with other natives. Why? Why do you ask?
They said these is in a remote area that's uninhabited, and they'll destroy everything within 100 miles. Well, if the natives come in rowboats, they're less than 100 miles away.
Well, yeah, but they bring that up here in a couple minutes. Remember, the professor brings that up, and I wanted to show this. I hope you are also doing awesome tonight, Gorilla. Okay, yes.
Yep.
Okay, so here we are with our opening credits and our intrepid crew heading off to the usual 3-hour tour. And we open in Washington with the Pentagon. And we have a general and a major discussing a missile. Oh, I got to open up my subtitles. Always got to do the subtitles. And we are on episode 18. Make sure I open up the right one, hopefully. There we go. All right. And it's to be tested down the South Sea Missile Range, says the general. So here we have a map of the North Ocean. And this is kind of interesting, too, because this kind of gives us a peek and an idea of where that island may be located.
But here's the thing. I thought they said they were southwest of Hawaii.
I don't know. Have they said that?
I swear they said that in an earlier episode.
Where's Hawaii on the map? Is it? You see where he's pointing there? Is that Hawaii north of that?
No, it's north. It's just to the west of it, right next to the word ocean. Right next to the word ocean.
Okay, well, from what he draws, he's saying this is the target, which that's kind of close, isn't it? I guess that might be more than 100 miles up from Hawaii.
Yeah, but that's southeast, not southwest.
When did you hear southwest or southeast or whatever?
I can't remember which episode it was. It was one of the first.
Yeah. They didn't take notes, so you're going to hear discrepancies throughout the episodes.
Yeah.
So basically, X marks the spot. So we're guessing that the island with the castaways are somewhere there where that X is. Which happens to be at the exact same time Skipper is drawing an X in the sand. And Gilligan comes along with a pole and puts the pole on the ground or slams it to the ground. And unfortunately, of course, he hits Skipper's foot. And Skipper tells him, and they're talking about building a playroom. And Skipper says, a nice big one. May as well make the island nice. And now they're talking about maybe having dancing. And Skipper explains that's not going to be easy with 3 men and 2 girls, or 3 girls, 4 men. And they go back to building. And Skipper asks Gilligan, do you know who has the radio? And Gilligan is guessing everybody on the island. And then finally Skipper says, you don't know where it is, do you? And he says, no.
Why is he, most people would just go, I don't know.
Right. Or maybe Gilligan was trying to remember the last time he saw it, and then he realized he wasn't sure. Yeah. So here we are, cut back to Washington at the Pentagon. And the major says to the general, you sent for me, sir? Yes, sir. The press had been notified. All the radio stations in the South Sea area. So they're explaining here is that all the radio stations have been notified, so they're going to start broadcasting that the missile will be coming down. Here comes.
Was that required by law or?
Yes. The reason why I want to bring this up is this is also based on true events. When the military was testing, that's where the name bikini from. The swimming suit the women wear called the bikini. That's named after an island called Bikini Island.
I thought it was called Bikini Atoll.
The swimsuit is called Bikini Atoll.
I thought the island is called Bikini Atoll or something like that.
Oh no, that's possible. I didn't say it wasn't. I was just saying the name Bikini came from that because they were bombing islands at the time when they were testing them with radiation. The bad news is back then they actually did affect natives, and intentionally they did it to test radiation effect on human bodies, which was cruel. That's why I still say these days, do not trust the government. They're always testing things on us. Anyway, Skipper runs in and says, "Hi, folks, have you seen the radio?" And he's talking to the Howells and the professor. And here's where they say no, but what the professor is doing is making a mirror for Mrs. Howell in the sand. And that's what Mr. Howell says. The professor is making a mirror for Mrs. Howell. And here's where we find our radio. The girls are apparently exercising.
Yeah.
You know, and one thing I'm happy about this episode too is this episode is going to bring up the point that a lot of people say about Gilligan's Island. In fact, Gorilla, you and I have brought this up before, that you would think after all these years those batteries will run dead. And this episode addresses that specifically.
Yeah. Oh, that's the one thing I wanted to say about this episode. This is the most work you'll see Mr. Howell do that doesn't directly benefit him.
No, but it does benefit Mrs. Howell.
Yeah, it benefits all of them. But
and the radio too, he likes to listen to his financial reports.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is this benefits everybody, you know, versus just him. Like in the gold mine thing, that benefited just him. Otherwise, the most we've seen him do is run a brush up and down.
Oh yeah, I agree. So the girls are doing exercises, and Skipper pushes the stop button on the radio, the volume, turns it off, and now he's mimicking the voice of the radio announcer.
Yeah, this would get him canceled right here.
They wouldn't allow that these days, possibly.
Yeah, they might allow it, but there'd be a lot of bitching and moaning from the frickin' Karens.
Right, even though he means no harm. So he's joking. So the skipper, imitating the announcer's voice, says, "And now, ladies, the next exercise is a real tough one. Ready?" And he tells them, "Now squat."
Yeah.
And then he stops talking. And they're waiting for the next command to stand up. And they're waiting and they're waiting. And they're saying, "I'm wondering why he's not talking." Yes, Gorilla.
Now, is he having fun, or is he just enjoying the view?
Well, wouldn't the view be more? I don't know. Well, I think he's laughing at the joke because I don't understand how that would be a good view. Because if you wanted a view, I mean, you would tell him to bend over, right?
Yeah. And hey, Jedi Bill, welcome. And Nemesis corrected me. It was called a Bikini Atoll.
Yes, atoll. And right, but I think if he wanted to leer at the women, he probably would have told them to bend over. But he didn't. He just told them to squat.
Yeah, but what could you get away with the censors?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why they're not going to show him telling them to bend over.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's not just the censors. The skipper wouldn't do that. He's not that kind of man. So the skipper is just doing this. He's messing with them. Yeah. Unfortunately, the word now is trolling. I hate that term. But anyway, so the girls are wondering why the radio announcer hasn't said anything, and the skipper starts laughing. And that's when they turn around and they realize that the skipper was joking with them. And they even say that wasn't very nice. And they said it certainly wasn't. And this is where they realize suddenly the radio stops working. So they naturally take the radio straight to the professor, who's taking it apart. And he says, "Oh, well, without the batteries, it may as well be broken." So he's telling them the radio is just fine, but the batteries are dead. And we cut back to Washington, and this is the final authorization for Operation Powder Keg, says the general. And have you been in touch with Vandenberg? That's Air Force Base. And they're saying the missile will be ready by tomorrow, the missile, and we just need your approval. He says, "Permission granted." "Thank you, sir." Here we are. We cut back to the castaways who are still fumbling with the radio. And here's where they're really worried. And Mrs. Howell says, "This is dreadful."
Now, why would it be that the first thing they think of is the batteries?
Isn't that what you would think of? Well, the first thing they did is he took it apart he was checking both things. First, he wanted to make sure the radio wasn't broken. And then if it wasn't. If it wasn't, then it was the batteries. So that's what I would do.
Just assume the batteries died.
Well, he probably did. But, I guess, okay, I think I know what you're saying. What you're saying is they would have pulled the batteries out, but they make it look here almost like you have to take the whole thing apart just to get to the batteries. because it shows the whole rear of the radio off. But I could be wrong.
Oh, it's because he's screwing around, looking at every little tiny little thing on it.
Well, I think a professor might do that. If I, and I do take, I do know kind of technology somewhat. I would give it a check over, make sure there's no blown capacitors or any kind of rust. And Mrs. Howe is lamenting the fact that she can't hear the fashion reports. And Mr. Howe says, why are you concerned with what the other women are wearing? And Marianne goes on to say that without the radio, she can't listen to her favorite soap opera. And here she goes on and on talking about a soap opera and exactly why I don't watch soap operas. A bunch of subplots is what she's basically saying. And Mr. Howe's complaining, how can those batteries be dead? It's a disgrace to the American free enterprise system. Mr. Howe goes on and on complaining about the cheap batteries. And there's no excuse for shoddy workmanship. And then Mrs. Howell is trying to interrupt him. But Thurston, these batteries were made by us, by the Thurston Howell Battery Company. And then he realizes,
yeah, now everything lasts.
right. And then now Gilligan is all excited and he's running in. I've got an extra set of batteries for the radio, he says. And they're all excited and they're putting the new batteries into the radio. All set. Can I turn it on, Skipper? And he says, sure. And Gilligan tries to turn the radio on. And nothing happens. But they're saying, well, maybe the batteries are dead. And they said, well, I never used them. And the professor states something that is true. How can we be charged? The professor says batteries can go dead just sitting on the shelf. And then the professor notices and says, wait a minute. These batteries are rechargeable. So the professor, how can we recharge batteries here on the island, they say. He says seawater. And everything he says right here is absolutely true. I learned this here in basic electronics. I built a radio that you can power off a lemon. I built another radio you can power off a penny. They're called crystal radios, and it can be done. So he says seawater. I used to do this experiment in science class, the professor says. We use seawater instead of battery acid to revitalize old dry cell batteries and produce electricity. We've got enough seawater to light up all lights on Broadway, says Skipper. Here's what we'll do, says the professor. So, cut to, the professor has a contraption together. And he has 4 or 5 coconuts. And he's got metal tabs in each coconut, all wired to the batteries. And he tells them they need to stir coconuts. And he even says, now everybody get ready to stir the coconut. So what they're doing, there we go. Now they're all stirring the coconuts. And when they do that, they're causing friction, which is causing electricity, which is recharging the batteries. And this is actually scientifically possible. And I love this. So anytime people come to you and say, well, wait a minute, the radio wouldn't last for years, they would here. Now, I think this is excellent. It wouldn't get much power, by the way. It would take an actual long time. Here they make it look like you just stir it a few seconds and the radios are good as new. But in reality, it would take you a while to get them charged. And it looks like the radio takes 4 D-sized batteries. And I turn on the radio just in time to hear the announcer say, we interrupt this program to bring you a news bulletin. Announces that at noon tomorrow, it will be a new test missile designated Operation Powder Keg. The warhead will be sent down the South Sea Missile Range to an isolated area approximately 140 degrees latitude and 10 degrees longitude. When the skipper hears that, he's alarmed. More on Operation Powder Keg during our regularly scheduled programming. And Skipper is worried. They say, what's the matter, Skipper? And Skipper says, didn't he say, but we were... Skipper repeats the position, and he says, isn't this what they said? And they said, yes. But we were 100 miles of that position. But Skipper reminds them, before we drifted for 3 days, we were at that position. Then our boat drifted for 3 days. So we could very easily be within the range of that missile. And Skipper says that would make sense, and it would confirm an area away from the shipping lanes. This is what I meant about the last episode, and what I mean about this one. Once again, the castaways are in very dire. This is a very dire situation. They realize they could die, that's when they all look ahead and they all wonder what's going on, and they're worried. Like sitting ducks. Meanwhile, back to the Pentagon, and we had the general picking up the phone to make an order. And he's got a call from Vandenberg, and he says, put him on. And he says, yes, Colonel, I was just on my way to the airport. So what they realize that the warhead, is not working, and there's something wrong with it. And the guy says, that's fine. At least we can get a test of the new guidance system. So the rocket's going to launch, but the warhead will not explode because they're having issues with it. But he said, that's okay. At least we can test the guidance system. Back to the island. Here we are, Gilligan, working around the hut, and everybody's worried. And he's saying he's straightened up, so it'll be nice when it's blown up, says Gilligan. And Marianne's being cheerful, and she's bringing him a coconut pie. And here's where he says that he already had another pie, but the first one gave him a stomach ache, but he's going to go ahead and eat this for her. And she's saying here that I thought I'd especially be nice to everybody because she knows what's going on. So she says she's making everybody a pie. There's Gilligan eating the pie. And of course, here comes the skipper with 2 pies. And he tells Gilligan that he would like to give Gilligan one of the pies. And Gilligan is trying to be nice and tell him no. Sorry, I'm answering a text.
No, you're fine. I'm just sitting here biting my tongue because I want to make a comment, but it's not YouTube friendly. YouTube won't like the comment. I'm biting my tongue.
So Skipper says, don't say that to make me feel better. I know it's true. And Gilligan's trying to say, no, Skipper, she made it for you. Please, you eat it. And Skipper says, I insist, trying to make up for the way that I've treated you, says Skipper. So Skipper's trying to be really nice to Gilligan. Gilligan said, no, I like the way you treat me and yell at me. And of course, Skipper says, unfortunately, the man should look at it. I know, he's trying to be nice. And Skipper says, unfortunately, the man should look at the people around him. So they're all... Gilligan stands up and unfortunately accidentally hits Skipper's hand, which causes the pie to splash into Skipper's face. And Gilligan says, oh no, Skipper. So Skipper, in retaliation, hits Gilligan in the face with the other pie. I want to go back there for a second. Notice there, before Skipper... Oh, I guess you're not the only one, huh? I guess you have company there, Gorilla.
Yeah, Nepsis, I think, is along the same lines as me with about the coconut cream pies.
So notice here, we have the Professor and Gilligan, and behind them immediately is, you see the window behind Gilligan, and you see the door behind the Skipper, right?
Yeah.
Now watch as I cut to the Howl Hut. It's almost like they don't even move the camera. They just move the set. Now they have the window. You can see the frame for the window, but they just put leaves in front of it and the same door. But now it's just redressed as the Howl Hut. And they're also worried about what's going to happen. So you got to remember this entire time they think they're going to die. And that's kind of dark that they're having to make that into a sitcom. And I love that. This show has a lot more depth than it first lets on, especially when I was a little kid. I never realized that they were, at least they thought, that close to dying. And that's kind of interesting. And it makes me really care for the characters a lot more. And of course, Mr. Howes thought they're going to be, when they die, they'll go to the big bank vault in the sky, up the stairs. And this is what makes you sure you're going to walk up and not down. And here's where he wants to diversify his money and donate it to charity. This is the episode where we find out that a lot of the trivia questions are, what banks did the keep their money in. Well, here's where you find out it's the First, Second, and Third National Bank. So he's saying we're going to take money from the First National Bank and distribute it to needy children. And then, of course, Mrs. Howell said that means, of course, children not living in Beverly Hills, which she's right about that. So let's see, $10 million to each disease. Here they're talking about donating to hospitals again. And he says that he thinks they'll discover some new diseases with the money. She says, marvelous, Levy. Oops. Here we have the professor walking in, talking to Ginger, and Ginger is very somber and sad. And she's reflecting on the fact that she'll never have a career. And she says, I mean, so I was an actress, so what? I mean, really, do something important she was hoping for. That 1 hour we saved 6 people, she thought. She's talking about a show she did. And Professor's lamenting as well. He says, I should have gone on with my work in science. We were working on a vision problem that we encountered by Navy patrol flyers after they had spent several hours scanning the ocean. And then he realizes something. Little fool I've been. Why, this is great, said the professor. And he rushes off. And here he comes rushing to the other castaway. Skipper, this is great. Absolutely great. And Skipper says, take it easy. We got to get. So here's what's going on. Skipper says, take it easy. And the professor says, we can't. We got to get busy. Don't you see? We're not in danger. This is our rescue. And the professor tells them, this is what I was telling you, Gorilla. This is what because I told you I'd bring it up. Here's where the professor says that before the government ever sends out a missile, they send a search plane to make sure the area is clear. So not only do they broadcast on all the radios, but they also send search planes to make sure there's nobody within the path of the warhead. And that's what the professor realizes.
Oh.
So he says they sent a search plane to make sure the area is clear. That is true. And here they are. They're excited. I told you we were going to be rescued, they say. We'll use it to signal the plane. And now they're saying they'll use that mirror that he was making for Mrs. Howell, and they'll use it to signal the plane that should ensure our rescue, he says. And Mr. Howell, the professor will catch the next day, and he has the mirror all ready to go. And the skipper is watching out for the plane. And the professor says, that does it. It's finished. Okay. And Gilligan says, I haven't seen it myself in so long, I forgot what I looked like, says Gilligan. And they hold up the mirror. And unfortunately, it's a curved mirror. I don't know how that would have helped Mrs. Howell. And Gilligan says, well, I sure lost a lot of weight. Then they turn the mirror sideways. Let me get a better grip on it, says the skipper. And now Gilligan looks fat. And here are the girls happy and celebrating their rescue already. And here we go with the skipper saying, all we have to do is wait for that plane. Gilligan gets up on the roof and spots the plane. And they're all excited there. Isn't that marvelous? They see the plane flying over. And Gilligan's yelling, set up the mirror, set up the mirror, set up the mirror. Oh boy, this is what we've been waiting for, they say. And here's Skipper and the professor getting the mirror in position. And Gilligan grabs a vine and decides to swing off of the hut. And unfortunately crashes through the mirror.
Yeah.
And now, as you can see, Skipper is frustrated once again.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Why didn't they tell Gilligan that under no circumstances was he to get off that hut?
They didn't know that he was going to do that.
Well, they've known him long enough. They should have been able to predict it.
You hope, huh?
Yeah, and Euler Greg says, signal the search plane.
Exactly.
He says, hail, Euler Greg. Hope you're doing well tonight. Euler Greg says, hi, doing well. And Euler Greg's going Tarzan, pretty much.
Right. What's funny is the skipper, you can see on the look on his face, he's frustrated, but at least this professor is concerned. And he asks Gilligan, are you all right? And Gilligan is okay. And even the skipper says, are you sure you're all right, little buddy? But they say, everybody quick, get a piece of glass. So all the castaways rush up and grab some glass and start holding it up to the plane. And unfortunately, the plane passes them by. And the man on the radio says, and the countdown has already started on Operation Powder Keg. So this is the point where they actually think they are going to die. And we have the countdown for the rocket. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And the radio announcer says it's the perfect shot. It should be along any second now. One of the castaways, I'm not sure which one, says it should be along any second now. And they ask the professor, how can you be so calm? And they look up and they say, I think I see the rocket. Okay.
It's an awfully fast rocket.
And the rocket happens to crash into the lagoon. So if there would have been an active warhead, they definitely would be dead. So the rocket crashes into the lagoon, and they realize it did not explode. And they realize it's coming up the lagoon. And the rocket slides onto the beach and then stops. And the professor tells them all to stand back. Don't make a noise. Don't even breathe.
Would that really set it off if they were talking or breathing?
Maybe not breathing. I'm sure they would be all fine. And talking, maybe not. But I think he's being extra cautious. You would think normally what they would say, what I would do is I'd say, everybody run quick to the other side of the island. And then Mrs. Howell says, we're not. I don't even think my heart's beating. And the professor realizes that a vibration could blow us up, he said. Anything. And he says, they need to get in there and deactivate the warhead. And there's only one of us small enough to fit in there, he says. Gee, I wonder who that'll be, right?
Yeah, but Gilligan and the professor are both the same size.
The professor's a little more huskier. He's buffer, I guess you could say. Gilligan's skinny. I don't know if it's that much at all.
Yeah. And Nemesis says, possible vibrations maybe could set the bomb off. Certainly, certain frequencies maybe.
I can see that. And here's where Gilligan's realizing he is not in any hurry to get inside that missile. So Gilligan starts walking, and for some reason, inexplicably, the nose of the missile starts following him. And this is funny. He's trying to act nonchalant, and the missile is just following him no matter where he goes. And when he walks over to the skipper, this is funny, the skipper pushes him away because he doesn't want that missile pointed towards him.
Yeah. And here's the thing, though. If the missile's moving like that, then they should know that it'll take a lot more than subtle vibrations to set it off if it's moving like that.
Well, no, all that means is the guidance system is working. It moving like that has nothing to do with the bomb itself, the warhead. But honestly, there's no reason why I would see the bomb would be following Gilligan. So that's just for the gag, the joke. There's where Gilligan's trying to shyly walk away, and the bomb follows him. And Gilligan trips over the fallen tree branch.
Yeah. Well, here's another question. Wouldn't the search plane be able to see the boat? Oh, wait, never mind. The whole boat's gone, ain't it?
Right, the whole boat is history. And here we have the professor taking apart the hatch on the missile. And he's telling Gilligan, here, you hold these. We'll take it very easy. I'll remove the access panel, he says. That way I'll be able to figure it out which wire. And he tells him to pull out the schematic. He said, there should be a schematic in there. And he says, give me that, and I'll be able to look at the wires and tell you which ones to disconnect. And, of course, Gilligan tried to give him a hand and fumbles, and he says, no, let me do this. Your job will come later. So here we are. The professor gets the hatch open, and he looks at the inside of the hatch, and inside the hatch, it does have the schematic. And he tells Gilligan, you need to find the orange and green wire. And Gilligan gets into the missile.
Yeah.
And he's tracing wires. And boy, this is something I've done many times, and it is no fun. Give me just a moment. I'll be right back.
Alrighty. Well, I still think the professor would be able to fit in that missile. I mean, look at all the room that Gilligan has. And you think they'd have the professor risk it just because the professor has less chance of screwing it up than Gilligan. Oh.
All right, I'm back, at least for now. So, and I heard you. I think maybe what the professor's thinking is, yes, he could fit inside the missile, but can he fit through the hatch? Because the hatch is much smaller than the inside of that, the width of that missile. I'm thinking, but I could be wrong. So Gilligan is tracing wires. There's the schematic, and the professor is calling out instructions, and he's telling Gilligan to look for. He describes to him a bar, and it'll have the wires attached to it. And he tells him to disconnect the wires, but make sure nothing touches them. And Gilligan is not happy when he hears this, but he's tracing wires, and he finds where the wire leads, and he starts disconnecting it. As he does this, the rocket fires and takes off with Gilligan inside. And the castaways, as you can see, are noticeably worried. Gilligan's still in there. He's in there, that boy, says Mrs. Howell. And the rocket actually hits the water and the lagoon and leaves. And there it is with Gilligan inside. And they're heartbroken and worried about poor Gilligan.
Okay, you think that thing would bounce off a tree?
Well, I guess they're lucky it didn't hit a tree, right?
Yeah.
And right now, at this point, now Gilligan did get the wire disconnected, so
I did not catch a word of that.
oops, sorry. No, what I was just going to say is at this point that the warhead has been disconnected, so they know it's not a bomb. It's not going to explode. But at this point, they're just worried about whatever happened to Gilligan because the rocket just took off. So now we cut to later. And what do you see right there in this later shot here, Gorilla? We go back. What do you see?
I see the Howls. I see Skipper.
No, we're right in the middle. We're right in the middle. I can't get it right on the still shot because it's in the middle of an edit. It's basically fading from the beach to the castaways. But what my point is, look at the beach and look back there, and you'll see the boat.
Oh yeah, see.
Right. So this was shot right.
Oh,
so there's still at this point.
A phone call here.
Go for it. So everybody at this point, they're still using the stock footage from earlier, because even though it established in an earlier episode that the boat was completely destroyed and it blew apart, they're using stock footage from the first episode where you still see the boat on the beach. So here's where everybody's lamenting and they're worried about Gilligan. And they're saying, I was going to have a Gilligan scholarship at Harvard, said. Now Mr. Howell's talking about creating a scholarship just for Gilligan in his name at Harvard. And the girls are unfortunately crying. Boy, those are some long eyelashes on Ginger. And just as they're all crying, Gilligan comes up and says, are you crying about me? And Gilligan is still wet, meaning he just swam out of the water. So it's a good thing he made it. And we fade to darkness. Now we have later Gilligan is dry. And he comes up to talk to Mr. Howell. And Mr. Howell says, oh, yes, Gilligan, my boy, what is it? And Gilligan said, remember when everybody thought they were going to be blown up? And Mr. Howell says, Gilligan, when people are in trouble, they make concessions and promises, he says. Gilligan is reminding him about all that money he promised. And, of course, now Mr. Howell is reneging on all that. When their trouble is over, they forget those fancy promises, says Mr. Howell. Of course.
Yeah.
Howell, yes.
Greg says, Pop's Air Force service makes him an expert on nuclear devices. It's similar to what Pop used when he was in SG-1.
Well, I'm definitely not an expert with nuclear devices, but and the only thing I'm going on is my history of watching TV shows and movies where they deactivate a warhead. I don't know what SG-1 is though.
Stargate.
I've never commented on Stargate before. I don't watch that show. And Mr. Howell says, Howell will go back on his word. Never. Our family crest is honesty, fidelity, integrity, says Mr. Howell. I thought so. Oh, wait, what's that? When I was doing the slides earlier, I forgot to bring up that when Mr. and Mrs. Howell in their hut, when they were making out those donations, they wrote a message and put it in a bottle. But since I had to skip through the scenes, it didn't show that. So here we are. Gilligan explains that while he was swimming back to shore, he spotted the bottle. And Mr. Howell says, oh, wait, what's that? And then Mr. Howell says, you don't need that. And Gilligan says, okay, I'll just throw it back in the water. And Mr. Howell, it gets up, you catch up, go after the bottle. No, my boy, don't. He doesn't want anybody to find that, obviously. And you hear a splash as Mr. Howell lands in the lagoon going after that bottle. And we cut to the end credits.
Yeah.
With Mr. Howell swimming around the lagoon, apparently looking for the bottle with a note in it because he doesn't want the banks to take away all his money. So what do you think about this episode there, Gorilla?
Pretty decent. It doesn't seem like a Gilligan's. It seemed kind of weird for a Gilligan's Island episode, though.
In what way?
Well, they had the Pentagon thing and all that flashing back, and that is a darker episode than the straight up comedy that we usually get.
And what do you think about the last one before this? Do you think that was kind of darker too?
No, I haven't. I can't comment on it because
that's true.
And Euler Greg said SG-1 is a secret Air Force team that travels to other planets through wormholes.
You're talking about the TV show, right? It's
yeah,
not real life. Is that right?
Yeah, it's TV.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I did see the original movie with Kurt Russell, Stargate, but I thought the movie was like, it was okay. I'll give it maybe a 6 out of 10. And that's why when they came out with the series of Stargate, I know there's been many of them, and I know they were on a long time. The idea, I just wasn't that excited. It was like a remake of the Time Tunnel. So anybody out there who knows Irwin Allen's The Time Tunnel, I just thought it was like a ripoff of that. But I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I know there are fans out there who like Stargate.
Yeah.
And Ola Greg says, good episode and good stream. Well, thank you, Ola Greg, and I'm glad you came by. I did have a poll in the chat if anybody would like to vote on which is your favorite episode, if any. Please feel free to do so. I'll be closing the chat here momentarily here. Or I'll be ending the poll. I'm sorry. I'll be ending the poll and I will show the results. If my computer decides to work and not be so slow.
Yeah, and Greg
like I said earlier.
Oops, keep going.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was saying Euler Greg liked Time Tunnel.
Oh, there we go. Euler Greg, there we go. So Euler Greg, you're out there. Do you see Time Tunnel being like Stargate or no? Or is that just me that thinks that? Okay, let me pop out the chat and then we'll show the results.
Yeah, and Nemesis says, that was very enjoyable. I'm glad I caught the stream.
Well, thank you, Nemesis. I'm glad you were here. And I'm especially glad all you guys are here to help me celebrate my 100 subs. I guess I should do a stream just for my 100 sub celebration. What do you think, Gorilla?
Yeah, do it. Go for it.
Even though I already got there?
Yeah. Most people wait till they're a few after because every once in a while you get a couple unsubs. Like I gained like 15 subs the other day, but I lost like 12 of them.
Okay. I posted a video on. I'm going to bring this up before I forget. I posted a video on my channel that is the original NBC. It was the original intro that the network was using for Star Trek, the original series, and you don't see that very often. I posted that. I'm getting a lot of hits. and that got me a few subs. So I'm hoping that'll help boost it way over 100. It's already over 800 views, and I just posted it yesterday. So here we are with our poll. Which episode did you enjoy most? We had 6 votes total. And it looks like 50% said X marks the spot. 16% liked Little Island Big Gun. Both equally with 16%, and neither one with 16%. So yeah, that's excellent. Thank you for voting, everybody. I need to make sure to include the results of that in my comment section so people can see later on, especially for those, if you're watching this on a rerun. I really appreciate you being here, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please like and subscribe to my channel. Click the little alert bell notification and share this with anybody you know if you can. Any help I get is greatly appreciated.
Yeah. And Euler Greg says wormhole travel versus time travel are so similar but different. SG1 is way better than the movie.
Well, I imagine it had to be if it lasted that many years.
Yeah. And Nemesis says it's a notable achievement. You wouldn't go wrong doing a celebration stream.
I'll try to, but for me, the problem with me, Nemesis, is finding a time where people are available. It just seems like every night and every day are taken up by somebody else that with a lot more subs. Like today's Wednesday, we were getting slowly getting more and more people, and then Doomcock decided to stream on Wednesday, and then Jedi Bill. By the way, Doomcock is huge, thousands and thousands of subs, and so he decided to start streaming on Wednesday which knocked down our viewership, and then Jedi Bill kicked in with his Wednesday karaoke's, and that almost gutted the last of our viewership. So I wanted to tell all of you out there in the chat how much it means to me that you guys are spending your time with me. I know you could be somewhere else. So you being here really does mean a lot to me. Resolute Germ and Captain Affinity was here. Ola Greg, thank you for stopping by. Of course, Nemesis of Eden, so sweet, thank you. And Jedi Bill was here. Seriously, you guys make this channel and everything I do worth it. I really love and appreciate you guys being here. Gorilla, is there anything you like to share?
Well, tomorrow I will be hosting free snow shoveling lessons in my driveway. If anybody's interested, I'll teach you several different techniques. There.
Well, let me ask you this: do you have a tripod?
No.
Try to get you a cheap tripod. Then you can record stuff like that. You just set the tripod up, do some shoveling, and post it as one of your shorts because you're getting a lot of hits on your shorts.
Oh,
I'm talking about his shorts on YouTube, everybody, not the other ones.
I didn't even think about that. Now.
You don't want any hits in your shorts. You want to hit
I do want
videos.
I do want hits in my shorts.
Okay, as long as it's not the wrong kind, right?
Oh.
And make sure there's no holes in your shorts while you're at it.
Yeah. No, I got the kid for that.
Okay. That's an old joke when I was a kid, and I shared that with my students. I said, go up to somebody, ask them, and say, hey, do you have holes in your underwear? Do you know what the answer is, Gorilla?
No. Well, you do, but you got 2 for your legs and 1.
Right, that's what you say. Because most people, you catch them off guard and you say, do you have holes in your underwear? And they always say no. And when you say, well, how do you get your legs through? Mm-hmm. It's an old childish joke. Sorry. I guess now it can be considered a dad joke. And Nemesis of Eden says, I like shorts. They're comfy and easy to wear. Yes, they are.
Hey, now you just gave me a dad joke for my kid. And he should be arriving here in about 45 minutes. So
he'll fall for it like everybody else. As soon as you say, he'll be like, huh? No, I don't have holes in my underwear. It works every time. It's old, but it works every time. And on my channel, I have Monday, Star Trek The Animated Series review. And I hope you're here to try to catch that. We're on episode number 17 next week. And there's only 22. Actually, not next week. We're going to be postponing next week because of the holidays, but I'll be back the following week right after the first of the year on that very first Monday, which I believe is the 2nd of January. And then on Tuesdays, you'll find me on the wonderful Antiderivative Jill's channel covering Star Trek the original series, my favorite. And Wednesday, as you can see, Gorilla and I do the fantastic Gilligan's Island stream like this one. Every Wednesday, we cover 2 episodes. And we hope we entertained you. We hope you had a good time. We try to make this as fun as possible. It's kind of heartbreaking that I can't share all the jokes with you guys. There's so many. The show is written so well, and there's so many jokes, but we just can't cover them all without getting a copyright strike. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close this up, Gorilla?
Tomorrow's Walton stream will be pending power. So
very cool, everybody. Check out that stream on Gorilla's channel. That's the Waltons, the original TV show. No remakes, no none of the good stuff. This is the original stuff from the early 1970s.
Yeah.
With the
as long as I got power, I'll be streaming.
As long as you got power, you'll be streaming. Well, you know what to do if you don't have power, right? Get some coconuts and some seawater and just kidding. I don't think that would be enough to power a house. That would probably take thousands of people stirring water in coconuts. Okay, so once again, thank you, everybody from the bottom of my heart in the chat for being here and spending time with us tonight. Most of all, thank you, Gorilla. I appreciate it. Once again, you did a fantastic job, and you're an excellent host. I really appreciate it. I know it's late for you, and you're tired, and you've got a lot to do tomorrow. And good luck with that snow, huh?
Well, we didn't get that. The problem is not the amount of snow we got. It's I got the worst driveway set up there because I got my house and that's on the north side of the road there, and my garage is divided there. There's a little section right between the garage and the house there. That all the snow's gonna go blowing in, then it'll drop straight down onto the driveway.
Oh wow!
So I'll have a 5-foot drift, and by the time this is done, I'll have a 5-6 foot drift out to dig out.
You ever have problems with flooding in the winter or when it's raining?
No.
Well, that's a good thing, man. Well, very cool. Very cool. Just make sure if you do have to work tomorrow, drive safely, all right? And I will try to, if you do have to work tomorrow, drive safely.
Oh, I probably won't go in, to be honest.
If you don't go in, do you have to take time off out of your vacation or sick leave?
If I want money, if I want to get paid.
Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. Hopefully you have some vacation built up.
Pull ahead.
That's one thing I do miss about when I was a teacher working for the schools is we've got like 2 weeks off for Christmas vacation. We would get off, we would leave. I think our first day off would be like December 21st or something. And then we didn't have to be back until after the first of the year. I do miss having those days. But oh well, got to do what you got to do. I'll probably do, for me, I do work for a living, and if I'm not working, I don't make money. And I don't, with the job I'm doing, I don't earn sick leave or any of that. So I'll probably be working through most of the holidays. I will be trying to figure out a time to do a 100 sub stream. I won't do that tonight. Obviously, it's so late. And I don't want to stream against Gorilla tomorrow during his Walton stream. So, but I guess I should do it soon. Let's see, tomorrow's Thursday. Maybe I'll try it Friday or Saturday, depending on if people are not busy. I guess maybe I could put a poll up in my community tab. I'm still getting used to my community tab on my YouTube. It's new to me. So maybe I can do it, because I also need to find a good night till we can start doing horror movies. So I've got a few things on my plate I got to get covered. Let me see. Did I get all the comments? I want to make sure I cover everybody's comments. And Nemesis Beat says, of course, so much fun. Sub to Gorilla, one more to 300. Seriously? Gorilla, you're at 299?
Yeah, I believe so.
Very cool.
No, thank you very much, Nemesis. That's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, you're neck and neck with Anti-Derivative Jill. I think she's like 309, 310, somewhere around there.
Okay, so do I have to tell her on Friday there that's a race to 400?
A race to, that's what I say, right? Nemesis of Eden says, hey, stay amazing, gentlemen. Likewise, thank you, Nemesis, and same to you. And most of all, I want to wish everybody Merry Christmas, because I think we're blessed and lucky for what we have. There's a lot of people out there who are living out in the cold or who have no food. And especially, it breaks my heart if the people have children and they're in need. I try to do the best I can for people like that because I can understand what it's like. I grew up very poor, so I have a lot of sympathy for people that are struggling, and I totally understand it.
Yeah. You stay amazing too, Nemesis. And you too, Goyler and Jedi, and who else was in the chat? And
Captain Infinity stopped by for a moment.
And Captain Infinity.
Yeah, I feel bad. He was doing a stream earlier and I dropped in, but I think he was having mic issues. And I do want to continue working on my issues, by the way, my audio issues, everyone. Be it my mic or my headphone, I'm going to figure it out one way or another. I have a feeling. I think it's RAM on my computer, honestly, because it's like it comes and goes, and it'll like it's been okay the last 10 or 20 minutes. I don't know why, and then suddenly it'll do it like every 30 seconds, and I need to figure out what's going on. And Nemesis of Eden says, "Thank you so much. Merry Christmas, everyone." Oh, likewise, Nemesis, and wherever you are, stay warm if you're in a cold area. And the same to all you, everybody. And good news, Gorilla, we've got this down to under 2 hours, so that's not bad, right?
No. Yeah, on the one day I don't have to get up early.
Well, if you don't, then make sure you sleep in a little bit, right? Make up for it. Okay, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this stream. And I hope I see you all. If I don't see you sooner, like I said, I'm probably going to have a 100 sub celebration. It'll all be under my musings and rumblings from the lab. I'll have one of those streams here in a couple of days celebrating the 100 subs. And everyone's invited. If you get the alert, please click the alert button. If not, hopefully I will see you guys Monday when I review, Star Trek the Animated Series. Until then, if I don't, I will talk to you. And Gorilla, next Wednesday, are we doing Gilligan's Island or are you going to be busy for the holidays?
I shouldn't be busy. I got work that day, so.
Okay, so next week, we are going to be covering episode 19, season 119. That's the one with the Jungle Boy, which is Kurt Russell. Did you realize that, Gorilla?
Who's Kurt Russell?
The boy who played the Jungle Boy.
Oh, okay.
Do you know who he is, though, the actor?
It seems familiar, but like I said, I'm never good with actors.
Oh, wow. Well, he played Snake Plissken on Escape from New York, and most recently he was on Guardians of the Galaxy. He was on Bone Tomahawk. He was in Hateful Eight. Oh, my God, there's so many movies I could mention with him in it. Fantastic actor. So, next week we have episode 19, Gilligan Meets Jungle Boy. And then we have episode 20, which is St. Gilligan and the Dragon. I can't wait. They both sound wonderful. And Ola Greg says, later, Gators. Later, Ola Greg. Thank you again. Nemesis of Eden says, Kurt Russell from The Thing. How about The Thing? That's right. Thank you. How about The Thing, Gorilla? You've seen The Thing, right?
No.
Oh, my goodness. Now, where's that geek card? Hand it over. We seriously, Gorilla. What?
But I have to hand over my geek card for not seeing The Thing. Then you got to hand yours over for not watching DS9.
The Thing is a movie. DS9 is a series that lasts several seasons.
Same difference.
And Ola Greg says he was in Stargate. Yes, he was in the original movie of Stargate, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
He's done a lot of movies. I'm seriously a lot of action movies, and wow, there's so many I can't remember. But obviously, The Thing, my God, is one of the biggest and best. We need to get together and have some watch parties here soon, Gorilla.
Okay.
I know you're not a fan in a horror, but The Thing is a good, suspenseful, actual scary movie, and it's actually worth giving it a try. And Nemesis of Eden says, "What? You have to watch The Thing. It's the top 3 faves. Some of the best practical effects, dude." Exactly. When I get my horror stream started up, everybody, we're going to be kicking it off with the Evil Dead trilogy. The first 3 are the only ones that exist. Forget about anything else. And then we will be covering The Thing. I've got a couple people lined up who are as big horror fans as I am. I think it's going to be an exciting show. And even Gola Greg pitches in and says Thing is excellent. It is. It's an absolute masterpiece. There's not that many movies that I can say are a masterpiece, but The Thing is one of them. Right up there with Back to the Future, Superman the movie, The Exorcist, the original. I mean, There's only a few movies that are actual masterpieces from beginning to end. And The Thing is definitely in there. Nemesis has horror streams. I'm there. All right, Nemesis. What I'll do is I have to finalize a date where everyone's available, a good time for everybody, and I will let you know. Stay tuned to my channel. You'll see me posting some messages and things, asking everybody what day is good for them. We'll kind of do like a poll and see what is good, and then we'll arrange. And I'm going to try to get this horror stream started as soon as possible because I've been trying to do it for almost a year. So we are at the 2-hour mark. We made it. Okay. So Chris Longfellow just came in. Hello, Chris. So good to see you. I feel bad. We're just closing the show. Pop Nemesis is Orla Greg. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming, Chris. And I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Hey there, Chris.
We finished the 2 episodes. We just reviewed them. Please, Chris, watch this on the rerun. And I hope you enjoy it. These are 2 great episodes. I highly recommend them, Chris. And Chris says, congrats on 100 subs. Thank you, Chris. I will be doing a 100 sub stream here in the next few days, Chris. I hope you can join us. And Nemesis says, hey, Chris, stay amazing. Absolutely. There you go. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you to the chat. Thank you for Gorilla. And everybody stay safe, stay warm, and peace. Have a wonderful night. And take care, everyone.